In my last video, I showed you how to make encaustic medium. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use some of that encaustic medium to make encaustic paint. Hi guys, I'm Joey. Welcome to my channel. This video is part of a guide on encaustic materials to help you build your encaustic studio. So be sure to check out the other videos in the series as they become available. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. On my palette here, I have my encaustic medium and some paraffin wax for cleaning. Now, even if you plan on making your own encaustic paints, I highly recommend that you still buy a few commercially made paints and experiment with them so you have a working knowledge of their quality. There are a few companies that manufacture encaustic paints, and you'll find that these paints are highly pigmented, like this cobalt green from R&F. You can use it full strength, and I'm just going to melt it directly on my palette here so we can test it. I'm using a scrap of illustration board to test the paint. As you can see, the paint is very rich in color. You can also thin it down with encaustic medium to get different levels of translucency. By diluting it, you'll find that a small bar of paint can go a long way. So here's the paint at full strength on top and diluted at the bottom. To clean your brush, wipe off the excess paint with a paper towel. Rinse your brush in the paraffin wax. Then wipe off any excess wax with a paper towel. Repeat rinsing in the paraffin wax until no more paint transfers. By the way, you can also use soy wax for cleaning, which is actually a better choice since it is more sustainable and eco-friendly. To clean your palette, just wipe off the paint with a paper towel. If it doesn't wipe clean, you can pour some paraffin wax to rinse the palette and help remove the paint. So encaustic paint is encaustic medium with pigment added to it. As exciting as it is to work with dry pigments, know that some contain highly toxic substances. So please exercise caution when handling them. To be on the safer side, only use pigments that are labeled non-toxic. But even if you are working with non-toxic pigments, avoid inhaling any dust and keep them away from food, drinks, and children. With that said, let's go make some paint. For today's demo, I'm using this blackcurrant red from Earth Pigments. If you don't need a lot for what you're currently working on, you can make paint directly on your palette. Just put some medium on the palette, and I'm just going to make a very small sampling here. With your brush loaded with some wax, dip it in the pigment container to get some pigment and mix it with the medium. You can adjust the amount of pigment you add to your medium depending on the level of transparency or color concentration you want. I'm just going to set this aside for now so we can test this color. I like it. It's a nice burgundy red. Now, if you want to make a whole container of paint, you can use the same brush dipping technique I just showed you. But I like having a baseline for all the paints I make, so I want to be consistent with the amount of pigment I use. I'm using my measuring spoon, which is 1/4 teaspoon, and adding 2 teaspoons of pigment to my container here, which holds about 1 ounce of medium. 2 teaspoons worth of pigment is just my preference. Of course, you can add as much or as little pigment as you want, again depending on the level of color concentration you desire. I'm going to stop at 1 teaspoon for now so I can sample this paint at half strength. I like to mix with a spoon so I can grind the pigment and mix thoroughly. Take your time mixing to make sure the pigment is well dissolved in the medium. I have a sketchbook here where I keep color swatches and where I'm going to sample this paint. It's definitely a very deep color. It's supposed to be semi-transparent, and it does look like it's not as opaque as other similar colors that I have. Anyway, now I'm going to add another teaspoon to the mixture. Again, you decide the amount of pigment you want to add to your medium to make your paint. I find that 2 teaspoons of pigment for this amount of medium is a good compromise for me. It's richer than how I'll normally use it, but I can always thin it down when I'm actually painting with it. This way it will last longer and I don't have to make paint too often. Alternatively, if I want a richer color, which probably won't happen too often, I can always add more pigment using the brush dipping technique. So again, mix thoroughly. Make sure there are no lumps and the pigment is well dissolved. By the way, I'd love to know what your favorite paint colors are, so let me know in the comment area below. So now I'm going to sample this paint at full strength. I'm stirring my paint one last time before I pour it in the mold so that the pigment may be suspended in the paint as evenly as possible. I'm using an A-clamp here as a handle so I can transfer the paint to the silicone baking mold. It will take 30 to 45 minutes for the paint to completely cool before I can remove it. And while I'm waiting for the paint to cool, I'm going to clean my tools with this paper towel. I'm going to use the same paper towel to wipe the paint off this spoon. And I like how the paint just comes right off. Now to clean the palette. Like I said earlier, if the paint doesn't completely come off, you can use some paraffin wax to help remove the paint. Now for the brush. Again, wipe off the excess paint on a paper towel. Then rinse your brush in the paraffin wax, wiping excess wax on the paper towel. Repeat rinsing until no more paint transfers. For the paint container, use some paraffin wax to help rinse off the paint. Swoosh the wax around and then wipe it off with a paper towel. Since the container is hot, I'm using another dental spatula to move the paper towel around and get to the edges. You can also use the pointed end of a brush to help you move the paper towel around. For some pigments like this one I just used, you may need to rinse a few times to completely clean the container. So here's the paint I just made, and it looks like it came out well. Before I put it away, I want to show you how I label my paints. So on a strip of paper, I write the pigment name, and this one is blackcurrant red. Sometimes I'll include the manufacturer's name, although for this one, I'm just writing the pigment name. Then I just wrap the label around the paint with some tape. I like using the rectangular mold for making paints instead of, let's say, a muffin mold because then it's easy to just wrap a label around the paints. And there you go. Here are some other paints I just made, a sky blue and a pistachio green, and these colors are just making me want to paint right now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you good luck on your paint making explorations. I hope you found this video helpful in some way. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. If you know someone who would benefit from watching this video, please make sure you share this video with them. Thanks for watching and have a great day.